3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. This is the Life Athlete Podcast, and I am your host, Peter Shmock. Back again, and guess what? It's a new year. And if you're listening to this, it's just a couple weeks after the first of the year. And the subject that I was thinking about today, having conversations with people about, is this idea of a resolution, which can often go bust about this time. So this is about resolutions revealed, gained, and sustained, not only for this month, but for this year and all the rest of the years that we are alive. So resolutions succeeding to make our lives better. I think it's really important to start with, as Simon Sinek says in his book, Why, is you have to know your why. You know, why are you going to be physically active? Why are you going to eat cleaner? Why are you going to change how you move in your day-to-day life? How are you going to change how you take care of yourself to the better? You have to be clear with your why. I'm going to give you an example. Jeff Ament, bass player for a group named Pearl Jam. You might have heard of them. We had a conversation years ago. It's on YouTube, as a matter of fact, an interview I did with him. And he talks about why he works out. And it's because he wants to rock and roll on stage. He wants to have the energy, and he's like 50, early 50s now. He wants to ride a skateboard, and he wants to play hoops. That's his why. What does he get out of it? That's the next word, the what. You have to be really clear with the why, and then you're going to go to the what. What are you going to get out of it? Well, you're going to get the pleasure of being, in Jeff's case, a rock and roll star, and feeling the energy that comes from rock and rolling on the stage, the pleasure of being outside and being on a skateboard and moving with grace and vigor. And that's the what. That's the goal that comes out of it. That's the result. And you have to keep coming back each and every day with, why am I going to make time to move? Why am I going to go for a walk? Why am I going to put the phone away and go outside and just sit in the park? Why am I going to go to the spin class? Why am I going to do my weight training and my flexibility in my for my ritual in the morning? Why? Because what you get out of it is feeling better, moving better, and being more capable, being more confident, and being in your life and in your body in a way that is more pleasurable. And all of this I experienced in this thing called shot putting a long time ago. And it's really what Life Athlete, whence it came, is this knowing what the why was, what's the what are you getting out of it? What is your goal? What is the result you'd like to have? And the next part is the how, and how you go about doing it. And in my career, gosh, it took so long to figure out an easier way of being in my body, a kinder way of talking to myself, being more compassionate, learning that I didn't have to go all out every single day to get to my why and my what, that there was an easier, more efficient way. And it was the ability to sustain it that came out of this. And that's what Life Athlete is to me. That's what I'm sharing with you, is how that process evolved for me, what I took out of it. And with this, you can go back and realize your why and your what by finding the how to do it, which is just the easier way of being more gentle with yourself, paying attention to your body, being consistent. Not every day is hard, and being compassionate for yourself when you fall off the wagon, which is going to happen. And then you restart and you re-enter your ring of potential. I had a shot put ring I had to enter in every day. Your ring of potential is your life and living it the very best you can with energy, vitality, to do the good things you want to do in life. So, resolutions, succeeded, and the results gained by knowing what your why is, your what, and then the how. It's that simple. Okay, this week, you're going to love this one because this woman is fantastic. Marjolein Brugman. I met last year for the first time, and we talked about her successes and some of the turmoil and the downside experiences of her life and how she came back from them to develop one of the greatest, if the greatest, the most successful fitness product ever and the longest time selling on QVC, called the Aero Pilates machine that she invented, created. And she has taken out in the world and grown it into a multi-million-dollar company and changing people's lives, as she said, one Pilates machine at a time. So a tremendous entrepreneur, a tremendous person from the standpoint of how she lives her life. And I really enjoyed my time with her the last time that we got together and the time that we did this podcast. So I hope you enjoy it as well. Marjolein Brugman. Here we go. I've told you this a number of times, but we met over coffee 6 months ago, and you told me the 30-minute version of your story, and I was like, this is a great story. This is a really wonderful story. So I want to talk to you about your story. I want to hear about your story and all the various phases, because as I was writing down notes, which I'm doing less and less of, frankly, things to talk about, I realized that, wow, these are like, okay, this is one whole podcast. This is another one. This is a third one. So we'll just see where it goes. So, it's kind of chronological when I think about it. Your accident, and I'm not remember, and it's just as well that I don't remember a lot of what you said, the detail. My memory is not all that great, but it just gives us a chance to go back into it and let me ask questions again for more detail. So you developed a home Pilates machine called the Aero Pilates, and it was a great success. And we can talk about that because that's that entrepreneurship, how you got there, TV producer, you had to finally take the reins, and you had to be the person who talked about it, not somebody else who was a hired gun, if you will. But that came after other things that happened. And it was 20-some years ago.
It was 1995.
1995. And was that the accident?
Yes, the end of the year. It was early winter, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I was out running one morning, bent down to tie my shoe on a very dead-end dirt road. A car came around the corner. She had two little children in the back of the car and turned around to look at the kids and hit me with her right side of her car, the sides closest to the footpath. There was no footpath. It was a dirt road, and hit my right buttock, and I threw me in the air, and I landed on the ground, completely unable to feel my lower body.
And what happened next?
Yes, so what happened next was she, of course, didn't realize what had happened, except that all the windows in her car smashed to smithereens, and she realized she'd hit something. And then she looked in the rear vision mirror and saw a body in the street, so came back, fortunately. And I just looked up at her and said, just get me to a hospital. And so the ambulance came, we got to the hospital, and they diagnosed the injury, which was a completely fractured lower body. I was hit by a big car. It wasn't going very fast, I think 30 miles an hour, but it was enough to do some pretty severe damage. So long story short, 3 months later when I was trying to rehabilitate, so fracture and all of that, the orthopedic surgeon said, there's this fabulous Pilates studio in town, go and rehab there. So I started working with a woman who at the time had been trained by Eve Gentry, who was a student of Joseph Pilates. Her name was Michelle Larson. She started training me 3 times a week, and after 3 months, Peter, I was blown away by what it had done to everything in my life, not just the healing of the fractures in my lower pelvis and my hip, but how I was moving differently and how I felt different and how I could feel my body differently. And it was all on this incredible Pilates reformer that had been developed, in the 1920s by Joseph Pilates. So it was new and it was different, but it was profound. And having been a person who had always been very athletic and into my body and fit and what have you, and at the time was a TV producer involved in the infomercial world, it suddenly all came together. Oh my gosh, this is a fitness product. This should be the next fitness product, not just something that's hidden, enigmatic for rehab. It seriously was so profound. So that was the beginning of the new story.
So go back into how your body was different after the 3 months of Pilates. You were already in your body. I mean, you were very active. You were running and doing whatever. But so something else changed. What was that change?
So it was this understanding of stabilizing muscles versus mobilizing muscles, understanding that your posture is more than just how you hold yourself. It's really what's going on the inside that you're not even aware of. And how does that change? And what about the imbalances that are always... I had a small 5-year-old at the time, so always carrying her and lifting her and moving, doing things that you do very repetitively, which becomes repetitive stress quickly. Mm-hmm. You're always lifting her on your right hip, or you're always doing something one way. And I had some stresses in my neck and my back. And, there were just things that I thought were normal, even though I was fit and strong and working out and felt balanced. I wasn't even remotely balanced when it comes to opposing muscles and movement patterns and doing things the right way, utilizing the right muscles when you're doing something. And the reformer teaches you that. So I was on it just to rehab this, horribly broken body, but really what it was doing was retraining me to move differently in a way that I'd never understood before because no one had ever explained it.
How did that, if it did, I'm assuming, have ramifications in the rest of your life? In terms of how you carried yourself, in terms of how you thought about your body?
It completely changed everything. It made me realize that, one-sided things are repetitive stress. So you start to balance that with using the other hand to do things. You're not always opening the door with the right hand, you use the left hand. It made me more conscious of everything I did, how I sat in the car, how I drove, how I opened doors, how I bent, how I carried groceries. Everything I did with much more consciousness of this incredible body that we have that we're not even really understanding. We kind of just take for granted. And I started to learn more about the balance that comes with a tricep that's the same strength as a bicep, for example. Instead of traditional fitness, which strengthens your bicep so you have a gun, and then you have a weak tricep and you can't straighten your arm. So so that was really profound. And I didn't know much about the anatomy of movement then. I was just, a student of the practice and trying to get my body to move again, hoping that I could run again.
How long before you ran again?
A year. But as soon as I had this sort of aha moment, I studied the discipline, and I trained under Romana, who was actually a student of Joe Pilates, a direct student. And I studied under her and her protege, Sean Gallagher. So these people were in that Pilates world. They owned the name Pilates. They had studios in New York. And I did the training, and I was fascinated, not because I wanted to go teach Pilates, but because I felt like it was one of those tools that you needed in your toolbox.
And you just wanted to continue to explore it on a deeper level.
Yeah, and understand it. Who was this guy and what was he thinking back in the 1920s? What knowledge did he have that we don't know about today? So, and then there was this other thing, which was, why is this so expensive? My insurance paid for 3 months, and after that, it was $50 a session, 3 times a week. Well, I couldn't afford that on an ongoing basis. So, and the reformers we were working out on were very expensive. They were, $5,000 machines and beautiful big equipment and too big to have in your home. And I thought, why couldn't this be accessible to everyone in the world at an affordable price in a way that they could utilize it at home? So that was that was the entrepreneur coming out, seeing the opportunity. How do you make that happen? And that was kind of the next phase.
So we had a conversation, truth be told here, I don't know when it was, yesterday, very briefly, talked about entrepreneurship. And I think you said, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong, something about entrepreneurship being born with as opposed to learned.
Yes. I'm a great believer in that.
How did your entrepreneurship reveal itself to you? Was that the first time, or did it come up earlier in your life in some other?
Oh no, as I said, I think entrepreneurs are born. I was selling perfume that I made from my mother's roses when I was 3 or 4 or something, and then putting on plays in the garden with all the local kids, and then charging the parents to come and watch them. Or, this is the best one. I would save. I never really liked sugar, and all my brothers and sisters did. So I would save all my Easter eggs in this green tin that my mother had given me under the bed until after Easter, and everyone had eaten all their eggs, and then they would buy them from me. So there was always something going on. I was making money when I was really young, just because I thought it was independence or something. I didn't want to rely on my parents. And the next kind of thing that maybe is slightly entrepreneurial is when I was 6 years old, I didn't really like living in the house. So I asked my father if he would help me build a tree house. And we had these huge pine trees. So he built a tree house for me at the top of a pine tree. And I basically lived in that pine tree. So I didn't have to participate in the whole, family thing. I was more independent.
What was there about the family thing that made you want to go live in the tree house?
Well, I just felt it was too competitive. Little sister needed something, big sister something else, mother playing us off. I really just wanted the freedom to be freer.
Interesting. And so you were in a tree house, and that gave you that freedom? You felt
yes,
that freedom?
Yes, I felt like I was a bird, living.
Plus you were off the ground.
Long way off the ground.
And it must have been a lot more quiet.
Oh, amazing.
Did you find at that time that you enjoyed being quiet?
Oh yeah.
Was that a surprise to you, or did you always?
No, I think my father was deaf, and I was his favorite. So I spent a lot of time with him, and I think during those early years, being his ears and trying to communicate non-verbally was something that I got really good at, and I liked it. I liked being quiet. I still do. I mean, you'll find every house I've ever owned is always in the trees, even this one a little bit. When I wake up in the morning, I'm in the trees, and I want to be up where they are.
And you can hear especially here, you can hear the wind blow through the palm fronds.
And the ocean, you can hear the ocean.
Yeah, I know, it's a great spot.
And it's
for those
quiet.
of you that can't see this is a very beautiful place in Todos Santos that you just inhabited not too long ago.
Right, I bought the land, though,
a long time
25 years ago. Yeah, when it was the last piece of land on this gorgeous little...
Great foresight, by the way. Here, cheers to that.
Yes.
We're doing
maybe
a toast
that's slightly
to that.
entrepreneurial too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, the entrepreneur is the person who likes independence, who doesn't really do well answering to other people, but can in a very disciplined way be responsible for what they do regularly. I don't think you can be successful as an entrepreneur if you can't be disciplined about everything in your life. And my days, I get up, I exercise, I do my meditation, and then I go to my desk. I mean, that's what I love to do. Not everybody likes to do that. Other people perhaps prefer to go to a job and be told what to do. I don't like to be told what to do.
Yes, I understand that. So Well, I want to ask about that ritual right there, because I think that's a ritual that is relatively unknown. Unfortunately, I think you and I are, I think, connected in terms of what we believe is a good way to be in our bodies and our minds, and that it takes certain disciplines and rituals to create that environment, to create that mindset and ease, calm, connectedness. I don't like the word grounded, but it's a word that people, I think, understand. I think of a connectedness to ourselves. Where did that practice originate, or when did it originate, and how did it come about, taking the morning to yourself?
Well, I think you learn when you're very young whether you're a night person or a morning person. So in my family, all my kids and my partners have always been night people. So they like to stay up at night and get up late. And I love that I'm a morning person. I'd like to get up very early in the morning. There's something about that peacefulness of the morning as the sun rises that feels really joyful to me. You know, it's a growing thing, and the light comes. And that is very inspiring. And then, of course, the discipline of the day is... It has to start with a connectedness to yourself, which I think you can only really have if you give yourself time by yourself. So whatever that looks like, meditation is something I learned way later in life, but even my running felt like meditation. Anything I ever do in the morning, I could be journaling or whatever it was just very peaceful and alone and my time to think. And then probably in the later years, the running was very clear headedness for me. You know, I could run and I would get really inspired, or new ideas would come, or solutions to problems would appear. I never liked to do two things at once, so I never ran with headphones on.
Right.
I just like to be in that one space. And then...
how did that affect your life? I mean, did you connect the dots like, this is a ritual that really works for me. I really like it. And, this is the effect on the rest of my life.
Well, what's interesting is running became a thing that I loved to do. And that started probably in high school and then in college. And it was an easy way to get oxygen in and feel really energized and feel good and whatever else you want out of an exercise program. That worked. And you could do it anywhere in the world. You know, all you needed was your running shoes. And I love that. And then I started to notice how it became very much more meditative, that they were the most inspired moments of my day was when I was running. And then I started having children, and my partners would say, they would know, they just began to learn, Mom's not going to do anything until she's run. So if she gets her run in early, then we all get to participate with her in her life, or we have to wait till that's done before the next big things happen. So it just became, it was me time. It was the only way I could find me time. I was not the person that walked into a room, sat down in lotus position and breathed, you know. That wasn't early on what I like to do. That's more maybe what I appreciate now. And then even later in life, gardening. Gardening is so meditative for me. You know, just that connection to the earth and watching things grow and being in that place where you appreciate. All you can do is appreciate everything else. Yeah,
you have the vibrancy of the entire life of the world at your fingertips and in your fingertips by being outside. I mean, just the potency of being outside, much less hands in the earth and holding on to things that are living and growing.
Yes.
I think there's a great potency to that.
So then let me just connect it to the Pilates practice on a reformer, because I think that it's the most physical mind-body connectedness that I've found. So yes, yoga is a practice that's connected in one way. It's not my most favorite way to connect. The reformer provides this extraordinary space for you to be safe, because it protects you and holds you and supports you 100%. But there's a physicality to it because of the resistance that you can completely control. And then as you begin to make those movements, because you're lying down and nothing's working, your stabilizers are not engaged because you're you're horizontal, suddenly you get this sense of your body that is so connected. You begin to feel things you never knew you could feel. You find places. And even 22 years later, I'm still feeling that. When I lie on that reformer in the morning and I start to do my practice there, I can feel things. I get aha moments all the time. All the time.
So from aha in your body to the aha in the entrepreneurship, let's go down that path.
Okay. So
how did that? You said everybody should have one of these. This would really be wonderful. It needs to be a lot less expensive. It needs to be more portable. It can't be so big to fit in somebody's house. Then where did that trail
let's
take you?
make it available. So fortunately, I was at a place in my business world where I knew people that I thought I could appeal to raise some money, to build a program, manufacture machines, develop a marketing strategy around it. And interestingly enough, the people that I approached said yes. So first of all, I found an incredible manufacturer, and I love this man, Kevin Gashevsky. He was the owner of a company called Stamina, and they're still around. They're still my manufacturers. He's 6'5", so he's huge. So these little reformers and this tall man, and he, a highly spiritual man, but he saw, even though he'd been in the business of making traditional fitness equipment for Walmart for years, he saw the opportunity in that mind-body connectedness, and I don't know whether it was my passion but he just saw the opportunity too. So instantly I had this incredible partner. We've been partners ever since. He's since retired, but the company and I still, partner in this business. And together we were able to develop the first prototype and then manufacture these machines. So that was huge. Then, of course, it was about raising money to market. How do you take it to market? Well, I'd been in the infomercial world, so I knew how to do that. How do you educate people about a product? You need to talk about it. You need to explain it. And in life, there's very rare moments of opportunity for that. You can go into a store today. Maybe someone can explain something on the shelf, but typically that doesn't happen. So the infomercial was this extraordinary medium in the 90s where you could take a half hour and explain a product and demonstrate it and give people an opportunity right there to buy. It was when direct response television was just becoming a real thing.
And what were the products that you were working on? If that helps to give some reference as to when this was taking place.
It was the very first Pilates reformer, home reformer that had ever been built.
What were the other products that you were involved in, though, in infomercials before the Pilates?
Oh gosh, as a consultant.
Yes.
Okay, Susan Powder. Do you remember her?
Oh, yes. Okay, that's perfect.
Her program.
Yep.
All those coins that were being sold at the time,
Coins.
Franklin Mint was
huge
at the time.
Right.
Remember? And Franklin Mint is a wonderful example of what I did. Okay, so this is a great analogy. So if you were a collector of art in the 90s, you probably went to a big gallery in New York and you bought a fabulous painting. Franklin Mint brought collectability to the mainstream, made it possible for people to collect and feel like they were doing something special. And it started with coins, but then it ended up being painted plates, and they really expanded into a massive business. Well, it's kind of what I did. I took something that was elitist and expensive and very exclusive, and I just made it mainstream. So I brought this incredible way of retraining your body to move with a real connectedness to the mainstream. And prior to that, it was only available to very rich people who could afford it, and only really in New York, LA, and one other place.
So how do I phrase this question? So typically the people who I would think would be involved and be interested in Pilates would be, as you just described, people had from New York, LA. They would have had to have more money than the average person. They might be a little bit more interested in their bodies than the mainstream, maybe. I'm assuming this. I don't know. But now you're selling to, in an infomercial, you're selling to a wider audience. How do you make that appeal to them? In what's the language to have those people sitting at late night watching TV to be interested in something that that would help them connect to their bodies?
Well, I think that's obviously the secret to good marketing generally. You know, how do you sell something? And for me personally, back in those days, I never thought that I was going to be that person. But what I realized was, because of the experience that I had had in my own body, I was able to share that. I'd also been a teacher, so I was probably fairly intuitively ready to explain something. And Pilates had never been explained. Nobody could really explain it. Nobody could say, well, what does a reformer really do? And I'd had the experience, and I was a teacher by nature, so I was able to explain it. I made it really simple. And it's probably my biggest forte, is to take something complicated and make it simple for people to understand. You do a very good job of that, by the way. You know, I noticed in the classes that we had this week, you're really able to just you don't have to know the anatomy of the body. You don't have to know what a tricep does or a muscle name. You just make these movements and you can feel it. And I think I had that very profound experience on the reformer, and then to be able to explain it. And it was really simple. It dawned on me one day. And as you know, I kind of think I was chosen for this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had that accident and ended up where I did. But
right.
One day I said, oh, why am I lying on my back? Oh, because maybe I shouldn't need to engage all the muscles that hold me up in order to retrain them. Because if they're holding me up, they're already imbalanced. The imbalances I have are there. So if I can take that away and I can lie down and make the movements, then I can fix the problems. And that was what Joe Pilates realized.
So it's essentially, as I would reward it in saying that there is a tonus within the body that is experienced in its pattern, in the pattern that we have owned, if you will,
yes.
When in the standing position. And that tonus is, tonus is like a very low grade level of contraction.
Yes.
So that tonus, once you're parallel on and resting on something, goes away. From that position, you're at neutral. Then you can begin the reprogramming.
Yes, and quickly muscles learn something new. They learn a new pattern, and one that is more appealing, because it's more balanced. You know, those tight muscles that have been holding you in place for so long can relax. And the weak ones go, oh, finally I can strengthen because that's relaxed. It's so clever, you know, if you think about it.
Oh, I know. I think the human body is just amazing in terms of how it finds ways to exist that aren't naturally efficient, and how it so easily can adapt if you just give it an opportunity.
Yes, it's always looking for that still point.
Yeah,
and we don't provide it. You know, our bodies, the way we move, the way we're always just doing so many things at once. There's never still point. Even that the breathing we did the other morning, the moment between the breath. You know, that moment right before you finish the exhale and take the inhale, there's a moment of time, and as that time gets longer, there's more of that connectedness, you know. So we need to find those moments in movement, in thought, the moments in between. I don't know how to explain that, but there's moments in between that's the key, I think, to...
Well, and it is. I mean, you're saying something very, very profound. My second meditation technique that I was taught almost 5 years ago was a numbers counting. You count to 1, you breathe in, you count to 2, you breathe out. If you get to 11, you go back to 1. If you repeat 3 again, you go back to 1. And as my teacher would say, just focus on the numbers. Later on, he said, I want you to do another meditation. because he would ask me how often I was with the numbers as a percentage. He was a Brooklyn Jew. He was very hard-nosed, and he was a brilliant man at the same time. I mean, what a freaking combination. So I don't remember, but I must have told him that I could stay with the numbers. I didn't go to 11 and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He said, I want you to focus on that which is in between the numbers. That's all he told me. That was the meditation. And that is the space, the void, is like there's nothing there. Well, actually there is. That's quite expansive, blah, blah, blah. So there is something really powerful about that.
Right.
However you are to experience it, whether it's the way that I did or the way that you're talking about it.
Okay, so we're articulating something that I think anyone that gets on a reformer experiences without having to articulate. There's this moment where it's no different than finding a still point in anything. If you can put your body in a place where it has to do nothing but just be, it's not holding you, it's not moving anything, everything is just completely still and not contracted. You know, you can do it lying on a foam roller in certain positions. If you do Alexander, you learn those places. I'm sure there's yoga movements that allow it. But the reformer creates it constantly. And with that, there's this ability to quickly make changes, quickly.
I want to go back to what was the problem you were solving to the people who were watching the infomercials about your machine? What were you selling them?
So I was giving them an opportunity to stop looking at fitness the traditional way by isolating one muscle at a time, become really efficient about how you get strong and flexible. It's not just strength, it's flexibility too and range of motion. How can you do that really quickly in a very short amount of time in a safe way without you having to know anything? You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything except make these movements. And this machine will create that opportunity for you. And that's really what I was selling. So I've never really sold traditional fitness or fitness generally. I think of it as a lifestyle because you do one session on a reformer, you get up, and everything that your body learned in that 20 minutes, it takes with it in the next movements it makes. So those changes are really quick.
What was the feedback that you got from people as they purchased it?
Well, the interesting thing was we went on home shopping the very first time, and we sold 1,000 machines in 7 minutes. That was in 1996 or something. So there was this need, people recognized that they wanted something. I'm sure they were early baby boomers at the time, and our generation, I think, has had that feeling of we're going to live a long time and we want to be mobile and we want to preserve that and start early. Because Pilates wasn't known, really. It was only talked about amongst elite circles in very exclusive towns.
Indeed.
And very expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't really know, Peter, honestly, how people heard what I had to say. But it was that it so profoundly changed me and my perception of my body that maybe I was just able to be passionate enough about that for other people to recognize it in themselves.
Yeah, I think there's a great potency to that. I mean, you talk about your experience and your truth around something that has changed your life. And especially when it goes contrary to some things around this thing called fitness, which turns an awful lot of people off. With this, did you get your workout in today? Did you fitness? Do you exercise? All of those have these little tinges. Some of them are little and some of them are big, where people react to them in a very negative sense. So, giving people a way to enter into human movement again and not have it be connected to any one of those things. Now we're gonna get on a reformer, we're gonna move, and you're gonna get connected to yourself and
right.
feel
And what
better.
I love is the independence of it, being able to take control of it for yourself and being responsible for yourself. And that's the entrepreneur again, right? It's like, really you're going to go somewhere and have someone do this for you, or can you do it on your own? Can you take just a little instruction and then have power to manifest it in your own life, in your own body, in your own time, at your own convenience.
There was a DVD that went along with this? Is that how people
back
learn?
then it was a VHS tape.
VSH. And then it went to DVD.
Yes.
And what is it today?
It's still actually, well, we have some apps and we have some more mobile versions of looking at it, but the instruction is still very DVD-like. It's very, this is what you do and this is how you get on, and this is, because it's complicated, it would seem. I mean, it's actually, when you're doing it, very intuitive, but it looks, you wouldn't really know what to do unless you could follow along. So I think...
Now, there were a ton, and I don't have many that I can remember, of fitness devices that have come and gone in the QVC, in the infomercial world. Yours has stuck around for a long time.
Yeah, I think the longest of any of them.
And has it been the most successful that you know of?
Yes, for longevity and sales.
So you've sold a couple more than the 1,000 that you originally sold in 7 minutes.
Yes, and I think the reason for that is that, again, it's a lifestyle thing. It's not about fitness, and I agree with you that there's a lot of guilt and anxiety around being fit. You know, people think, if I don't go, that's not good, and instead of just getting into feeling your body and enjoying the experience of it and being allowed to do it whenever you want at home and not having to go anywhere to do it is, I think, key. Because then you can actually really do it and enjoy it.
Well, how do you describe that to people? How do you kind of point them in a direction and say, here are my 3 tips of how to do this successfully for the rest of your life? What are your
So the first thing that I try to encourage them to do is experience it. Because in the experience is the answer. You know, as soon as you feel it, and you want more of it. It's addictive. So if I can get them to try it at home and just get on the first time, then I know that I've got a conversation that's ongoing. And so the way we've done that over the years is many, many different ways. You know, it's incentives to get someone on it, whether it's a trial period or a no-risk opportunity. You know, once I know I get someone to feel it, then I know that they're going to get it, because your body will feel it right away.
And what about when they start, in any ways that they can fall off? What advice do you have for the people, those that, need a little help in coming back and making it sustainable? What are your tips for them?
Well, that's always, I think I've said this to you, that's my most fascinating question every day. What motivates someone to do something? And I don't know the answer to that, but I do, in my own world, I have profiled 4 kinds of people. So when I talk about it 4 different ways. I talk about the dream of it, the imaginary thing that you might feel and what that could be. Then I can talk a little bit more about the details of it in terms of, what you will see specifically in your body. And we've done many studies, so I can actually substantiate that information. Then I talk about the results, the big results that we know are really there. And then I try to talk to the skeptic, the person that says, it's too easy or it's too hard, because people have resistance for very many different reasons. And what I'm learning is that the biggest one is fear. Mm-hmm. A deeper fear of, I couldn't do it, or I'll hurt myself, or I've done that before, or I don't really believe it, or, there's a lot of fear around trying something new. And you're right, fitness products are a dime a dozen, and they're all trendy. And, how many decades did we have all ab things just for the ab?
The abdominizer.
Yeah, right, millions of those. Yeah. But really, what I get to be privileged to talk about is, this is not ever just one thing. This is your mind, your body, your spirit. It's balance from opposing muscles. It's balance from front to back and side to side and inside to outside. It's meditative. It's energizing, stress reducing, and we've studied it. I mean, we've done clinical studies. Stress is reduced 58%.
Yeah.
in a short amount of time. And that you can't say about all fitness. You can't say that about CrossFit or even necessarily running. You know, a lot of fitness that's out there adds cortisol and adrenaline and stress to your body. This doesn't. It actually does the opposite. It releases endorphins in a different way.
Yeah, it's not a medication. It's a good medication, but it's not a medication that masks something else that's going on in your body.
Right.
Most of what happens in the over-the-top, the high-intensity failure fitness mode that is out there today, which should fear a lot of people, is that it creates more discomfort and cortisol and injury in their bodies, which then
inflammation,
and that makes your life worse. I mean, I think the number one thing is you're talking about is when people start to feel that their lives are affected in a positive way, and it didn't cost them that much to get there, it's worth doing again.
Right.
When it starts costing them in injury or kind of chronic fatigue from working out, you remember those, and then all of a sudden the connotation of exercise goes like, holy shit.
And even
I'm
time.
going to do that again? Yeah.
Even time. I mean, in 20 minutes, I can work your entire body out. Neck, feet, everything.
Yeah.
So because it's so all-consuming, you know, unlike traditional fitness at the gym where you do isolate one muscle at a time and you fatigue it to that moment and then you rest it for a day, one Pilates movement on a reformer engages all of your upper body and all of your core, or all of your lower body and all of your core. So it's massive. You know, hundreds of muscles are engaging at the same time, which is a much more functional way to get fit. And not unlike what you do every single day. And, you know, the first class I took with you and you said, I just want you to smile your way through it. We have the same philosophy. If it's hurting, stop. This is not about go for the burn or wait for the pain. Not that you don't feel the muscles the next day, because even the fittest, you know, we had a fabulous person in your class who bikes and runs, and she did one Pilates class and she felt muscles she hadn't felt ever.
Yeah. That's potent stuff. Let's go back to in entrepreneurship. What do you think are the mistakes that entrepreneurs make today? If you were to sit down to a class of startups or entrepreneurs to say they want to do good things and change the world and create, whether it's a fitness product or something, let's just keep it in the health and wellness area. You know, I want to do good things for people. What are the mistakes that they make going into this?
Well, I actually speak to the Babson Entrepreneur Group every year, and so I have kind of one-on-one relationship sometimes with these young people coming through these great business schools, and they're there because they want to be entrepreneurs. I think the biggest mistake, it's not really a mistake, it's just a disillusionment. You know, they give up. And you can't give up. I really believe that when you have an idea, if it's in your head, it's there for a reason. It doesn't just happen that you have that idea. And maybe someone else has it, doesn't matter. Yours is different. So when the idea emerges, you have to follow through on that if you see it as an opportunity that, you know, gives you joy. And then you don't take no for an answer, and you just go for it, and you go for it, and you go for it, and you don't. And I'll give you an example. My younger brother, so we were probably all entrepreneurial, but my young brother loves Art Deco. And in his early 30s, he fell in love with an old chairlift that we used to visit when we were kids at the beach. So it was get on a chair, you go to the top, you'd have dinner, and then we go home. And while we were on summer break, we would do it 2 or 3 times for that season. That had become completely derelict, and he decided to buy it and raise the money to fix it. It took 10 years, Peter. Now it's the biggest attraction in Victoria and Australia. It's become huge. He just didn't give up. You know, when the government said no, when the city said no, when the council said no, when the neighbors said no, he just kept fighting. And I just think that's the goal. You know, it's like when you believe in something and you see it, you follow through on it. And making a difference. So the second thing would be don't make any decisions based on dollars. You know, you don't measure things by the success. Timelines are not measured by the dollars. yes, you need milestones, I'm sure, in every project, but it can't be how many dollars you're generating. It's got to be measured differently.
How else would you measure it?
Well, so obviously very different ways, but for example, if a person emails me and says, which reformer should I buy? I tell them what I know based on the questions that I ask and the answers they give. And my accountant once said to me, well, you make a lot more money on this one and not that one. Why don't you just sell that? But I said, that doesn't even matter because I want the best reformer for the person. It's got nothing to do with the dollars, that I make. So that's a very, one thing is business, the other thing is entrepreneurship. It's different. Like founders of companies are often ousted by new CEOs that come in because they're business oriented. But it doesn't make them better founders or owners of companies.
So it sounds like one of the things that's important is the individualization and the care that you give to what the person needs, as opposed to that you should buy it because I'm going to make more money out of it. So that's an internal, what I would call an internal directive that is of a goodness quality that is beyond, I think, what a lot of people who are entrepreneurs and just want to sell something because we're going to make a lot of money off of it, and you only have one choice, and whether it works for you or not, we don't really care. I think the model where there is this underlying that we really believe this helps you.
Yes, and the desire to make that change.
Yes.
And help other people make that change. Yes, and I really do believe if you come from that place, the money follows. It always has in my life.
Where are you in your body today? This is a question that everybody gets. So you've been in your body a long time. You've been very active. You've done Pilates obviously a long time. You still like to run. You were doing some movement with me, so I got to see you move. Where are you in your body today? What are your challenges, and if there are any, and what's your experience like?
Well, there's many things that are way better, and then there's a few challenges. I have this SI joint that just seems to have a mind of its own. So I end up with some tweaked lower back issues occasionally, and then a rib that reacts to that. So what I've learned about my body is that I have an intrinsic twist in my rib cage. I also have bunions in my feet. So those three things together can occasionally, with the wrong combination, cause some discomfort. But I've learned to fix it. I know how to address it. I'd love to get rid of it. I'm not sure that I'm there yet, and I think that it's fun to have a little bit of a challenge. If your body was always perfect, and then what would you really be learning or teaching? But I think my posture's better than it's ever been, and I feel intrinsically really stronger than I've ever felt. So in my day-to-day life, for example, I only started gardening about 17 years ago, but in my gardening practice, I can lift boulders and move things in ways that I never used to be able to. So I know how to use it in a much more effective, functional way, and I'm sure that will continue to expand as I spend more time with people like you, and finding the time to do that is the thing that I need to do more of, is spend time working with other body-minded, body-conscious people.
Do you find that you get up some days and you're just sick and tired of your body and you're, God damn it, I can't believe I have to put up with this again, and there's that SI joint, and what the hell?
I try really hard to not ever speak to my body that way. I try to really love it and say, okay, what are you telling me? And the biggest challenge in my life has been to do less. Instead of always doing more, it's like maybe do less, take a little more time to let this be and not fight it.
Is it do less not only in your body but in your entire life?
Oh gosh, that is my dream.
What prevents you from that?
being too entrepreneurial. But I think that art is my next love, and that will be where I will spend a lot more of my time just creating.
I would say, sorry, people, unless you watch the video. I hope the video comes out all right. You're not going to be able to see this place. This would be a good place to do art.
Yes.
To create.
Yes.
I think that, you said it very well. Not that you need me to give you feedback on how you talk to your body and listen to it, but it is that in that relationship in a non-adversarial way that you have a friend. I don't know, you have a friend, but let's say you love your body, but maybe you don't love your body. You have a friend in your body, and you can have a dialogue, and it's not like get up in the morning and say, screw you. There's pain in my foot. I'm going to run through it. And now I can't run anymore. Or, God damn it, I'm sick again. I mean, the number of people who I hear of, I can't believe it. I'm so frustrated. My fucking body, I'm sick again, and I'm so over this. And that's not much of a relationship to be able to, on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so I'm going to share something that I've never shared before, but this is a little trick that I don't know where I came up with it, but it really helps me. So, because we all have our limitations, and while we don't want to dwell on them, we certainly have them. So I wake up in the morning and I close my eyes as I walk into the bathroom, and I say to myself, when I open my eyes, I'm going to see a really vibrant, beautiful woman. And I wake up and I open my eyes, and it always makes me smile. And then I'm like, hey, you're pretty good today. So that's just much better than, I like to start the day positive. And yeah, so that's the trick. And pain in your body is your best friend. It's telling you something, and you cannot ignore it, and you shouldn't push through it. You should absolutely listen and do whatever it takes to alleviate it or help it or nurture it.
Well said. Thanks for the tip. That's not just a tip. Thanks for the sharing of something that you hadn't shared before. I think that's really a powerful visual image of what you do in the morning.
Especially for women. I don't know that men feel the same way, but women as we age, it's hard. Those wrinkles appear and your eyes get droopy. Everything falls a little bit. And no matter how hard you work, I mean, all the women I work with, they're like, can't I get more muscle tone? Can't I... things change. Estrogen is a very powerful hormone. And when you're not making it in the same way that you used to, things are really different. And it's often very difficult for women to absorb that and love themselves anyway.
Love themselves anyway. Hear, hear. Any last words? Any last thought? Anything else that you've already shared a biggie right at the very end, but anything else before we...
No, I just think that being grateful, forgiving the people in your life that, make you crazy, and forgiving yourself is key. And that, with all the other things, I think makes for a pretty peaceful life.
Bingo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and thank you for
wonderful.
coming. This has been such a joyful week. People have loved it.
Yeah, we'll do it some more, for sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, what do you think? Wasn't that as fantastic as I said it was? Inspirational, motivational, a sense of what somebody has to go through in their lives when things unexpected, like being hit by a car, and how to come back from that. Keep coming back. That's very much Life Athlete. And she, Marjolein Brugman, is a life athlete. So I hope you got as much out of that as I did. My one takeaway is just reaffirming the morning ritual, to take time to yourself, to move, to be quiet, and that is the guiding light and the vitality and the clearness of mind and the energy that you take in to the rest of the day to crush it and to do the things that will make your life better and those around you better. Who knows? You could have the next great startup. but it's going to happen a lot easier and with a lot more enjoyment and calmness if you take time in your morning. So thank you, Marjolein, for that as well. You can see what she's up to. Her website is lighterliving.com. Lighterliving.com. Marjolein Brugman, Brugman. And for Life Athlete, on Facebook at Life Athlete Way. Oh, and the sponsor of this show, yes, my book, The Way of the Life Athlete. You know, that's really the guiding light behind all of what I'm doing. It encapsulates what the Life Athlete philosophy and practice is, and a great deal, if not the entirety, of why I'm doing this podcast, is to share with you a better way to be in your body, the Life Athlete way. So you can pick it up on my website, which would be awesome, lifeathlete.com, petershmock.com, lifeathlete.com. Get the book, share it. Share the podcast if you like it. Tell somebody about it. It would be so awesome. It helps to expand this movement. Life Athlete is movement, counterculture, and really, really an important philosophy and practice for today for everyone. So please share on Facebook, like Facebook, and the podcast. And thank you for listening. For those of you returning, thank you again and again for coming back. And for the new folks, hey, glad you're here. Take good care of yourselves. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your life. Be good to your body and your mind and your soul, and everything will be okay. Take good care. See you next time.